Alright, so the best methods for farming these applied technique books in the endgame of Palworld. We're going to be taking a look at the different sources, their drop rates, also what other kind of items you can get while actually farming them, if it's worth it to do like some multiple activities, the cooldowns on them, and also just what kind of setup you need. So we're going to start by taking a look at just the fastest ways to farm these books, and then moving on to the actual drop rates and how much prep is required and everything like that. So starting with just supply drops in the settings, you set it to 1 minute. Every other drop you're going to get a book on Feybreak, because on Feybreak the supply drops have a 100% drop rate. But if you do want to use default settings, then you can start looking at doing the Sakurajima bases. There's 4 bases, 30 minutes cooldown. So if you're only looking at the actual time spent on the activity, you're looking at almost 30 books per hour, because it does take around 2.5 to 3 minutes to clear these 4 bases if you're traveling between them on a fast mount and just ignoring the small chests, which they don't really drop anything super cool. The big chests, you can get the peaches, you can get the lightweight hexalite armor, and you can also get treasure maps, which will give you the energy shotgun, the overheat rifle, and the charge rifle if you are looking for that. Then we have these elemental chests. So there's 3 different locations that all have this sort of higher drop rate elemental chests. It's Sakurajima, it's Feybreak, and it's these Neptilius Island and the Terraria Island. So just looking at the islands, they are very close together. You can just go between these 3 or 4 chests depending on what island, and very quickly just loot the chests. And then you're looking at around 20 books per hour, but they do have a very long cooldown. And then same thing on Sakurajima, you got the chests. They're a little bit more spread out, but still close enough and no fast traveling between them. So just also pretty quick rate. Looking at Feybreak for the elemental chests, Feybreak is just this huge island. You probably need like a maxed Xenoloord just to get around. So it's a little bit slower even if you do have that maxed Xenoloord. So it's not a great option. You probably just want to clear at least the Terraria and Neptilius Island. Maybe Sakurajima, might as well do it if you're clearing the bases. Then we also have salvaging. So salvaging, no real cooldown because there's so many salvage locations. You're looking at around 18 books per hour. You get a ton of Coralum. You get the Hexalite armors. Unfortunately, you're not going to be getting the lightweight armor from it, but you're going to be getting a lot of dog coins, giant pal souls, just a ton of different sort of materials there. You can get the treasure map, but it's very rare. It's averaging around 1 legendary treasure map per hour, which gives you a pretty low chance of the lightweight Hexalite armor, but not something that I would really count on from salvaging. But overall, salvaging is just looking super good for just consistent farming, no cooldown on it, just keep on going. Not like the Sakurajima base or the oil rig with 30 minutes, or the elemental chests with 6-hour cooldown times between them. We also have the Feybreak dungeons. Now they're also the same problem as like the elemental chests on Feybreak. They're very spread out. To get between them you probably want a Xenoloord, but then you want another fast mount in the dungeon itself. You have the different, like, they can be closed when you get there. So overall it looked pretty slow to be farming the Feybreak dungeons. And from the Feybreak dungeons, you're probably not going to be getting a lot of books. It's more about the legendary treasure maps and the rare treasure maps that you can get from the dungeons that will give you the books instead. So it's the same thing there really, that you can get the treasure maps which can give you the overheat rifle and stuff like that. But in general, I don't really recommend the Feybreak dungeons. And then it's just the supply drops on default settings, which I just felt was worth mentioning, that on Feybreak it is that 100% drop rate for it. But the supply drops, you don't really need any sort of setup for it. We also have the oil rig. So the oil rig is pretty interesting. It did get a pretty big buff to the drop rate for the books. But at the same time, you're going to be wanting like your maxed out Jet Dragon, Felbat, the Gobfins, some good weapons to clear out the chopper. And the farming time is going to vary a lot depending on how you're farming the oil rig. For me, it doesn't take much more than 5 or 6 minutes to clear the entire thing. But for most people, it's going to take way longer than that. But you do also get the benefit that it is probably the best source of the lightweight Hexalite armor. You get the multi-guided missile launcher legendary, also the plasma cannon legendary. So the oil rig is just, you might as well clear it if you're hunting the other things, but if you're only after these applied technique books, it's probably best to just, you do the Sakurajima base clear every 30 minutes, you clear those elemental chests on the islands in Sakurajima, and then you just go and salvage while that is on cooldown. So salvage for 30 minutes and then clear the bases and then keep on salvaging. So that is probably my recommended endgame method for farming these. but we're just going to take a little bit of a look at the drop rates themselves. So I've collected the drop rates and put them here on the Applied Technique Books page on the website. We can go down and just check out the sources real quick. For dungeons, all the dungeons will have this 1 in 1,000 drop rate per end chest, and there's 2 chests. But you're mainly going to be farming the dungeons as mentioned for that treasure map, the legendary treasure map on Feybreak dungeons especially. We have the oil rigs got a great boost to the drop rate. It used to be like 1% and 0.0009% or something. Now it's up, so these two together are around 40% per oil rig run. And enemy camps, it's sort of the same thing as dungeons. You're not going to be getting the books from the end chest itself. You're going to be getting it from the treasure maps that drop from the dungeons. Then magnet salvage is also the same thing here. You're going to be wanting those maxed out Gelroys to give you that 4.5% chance. And then with that max speed Neptilius, you are going to be looting quite a lot every hours to get that average number. And it won't vary greatly. Like, you can use a slightly worse mount, because I feel like the majority of the time is spent on the little minigame rather than moving between the chests. But Neptilius is just nice for that little jump animation if you're having trouble spotting the next salvage spot. Terraria dungeon, pretty bad drop rate there, so I don't really recommend that one. We have the elemental chest. So the drop rate for the elemental chest is a bit special because you have like 3 or 4 books per type of elemental chest. So it's maybe a little bit better if you're hunting for a specific one. But overall, I just suggest you clear all the chests anyway. And then it does depend on this area. So you got like the beginner areas here. You got those slightly higher tier areas. And then we do have these red circles for that almost 10% drop rate for the Applied Technique books, which is this Neptilian Island top here, Sakurajima, Terraria Island, and then just Feybreak, which I probably don't recommend doing. Maybe if you do want to clear Feybreak dungeons, you would add these as well, like doing the elemental chests and dungeons at the same time, but I still don't really recommend it. Then I probably recommend more doing like the Sakurajima clear every 30 minutes, like do the elemental chests and then do the bases together. But at the same time, the elemental chests, 300-minute cooldown, pretty long time here. And then also if you do want like a proper map for this, I suggest the paldb map, which is where I took these screenshots, just some zoomed in screenshots on these different sort of islands and where they are. So let's tab that down again. Supply drops, as mentioned as well, varies by region. Feybreak Island is the one with 100% drop rate, if you do want to put the timer on 1 minute for the supply drops. We have the treasure map thing as well, 100% chance from the legendary. You also have the epic with 50%, but that's included in that original farming rate chart that I showed in the beginning. And then fishing is very like special on its own. I didn't really bring it up before because I don't really think it's worth it. It's a very slow farming method. If it's a slight bonus if you're fishing for the Lunker or Rainbow passive pals, but if you're just after the applied books, then you probably just skip fishing altogether. It's like varies a lot by region, what kind of fishing shadow you're fishing for, if you're having Jelliettes or not. You need the like perfect fishing setup really to be efficient at farming the master pools, so not perfect. But then we also have a couple of quests. So the quests are these like one-time thing. You can only get 1 book, but it is guaranteed. So you might as well just go do these quests. There's a couple of like normal missions. Then you got the pal critics that just want to see a pal, food critic that just wants to see the food, and then 1 random one from the friendly pal tamer cave. So that's it really for this video. I will probably just do the Sakurajima bases. You get the peaches and everything as well there, which is what I'm doing anyway. Adding the elemental chest, probably adding the Neptilius Island and Terraria Dungeon one, or Terraria Dungeon Island one. And then just salvaging for that like massive amount of coralum as well. But that's it for this video, so thanks for watching.